Hi, guys.
Hello.
Happy Thursday.
We are live.
We're live.
Wow, I
Crazy
wasn't in
Shayne.
the middle of something. That
Yeah, I
time.
know. I'm surprised. That's probably why you're thrown off a little bit.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what?
Huh?
It's Frankie Shayne and Kate Elaine, and we are here tonight with the prospecting call. So thank you guys for always jumping on here and spending some of your evening with us. Tonight, I'm going to teach you a little native slang. Tonight it's called going native. And I am Native American, and proudly so. And tonight I'm rocking all my garb. And but I wanted to share with you guys two words: studis and scoden. So if you've never heard either one of those, as Caitlin had never heard either one of them, and thought I had
honestly
that autocorrect had messed up what I was trying to say. It's a slang way of saying let's do this. And scoden is like saying, let's go then, like, let's get it done. Let's get going.
I'm down.
So what I wanted to talk about tonight was staying motivated, because here we are now, we're well into January. We're on the tail end of January at this point. And so I wanted to just share some stuff. Some of it kind of as I get motivated. Some of it is kind of like giving me a little kick in the backside, a little tough love. I mean, we're not gonna be mean to anybody, but just things to think about and things to stay focused on. And this isn't going to be like a hold your hand type of this is how we do this. Please be nice. And not everybody gets a participation trophy. This is more like, hey, these are the things we need to do to just, put our nose to the grindstone and push on through. Because right now is when it gets people, again, like we said last week. Last week, I think technically was what, statistically speaking, most people have already dropped the ball.
Right.
They've already thrown in the towel. They've already said, forget it. So tonight, what we want to do is go through a few points about what it takes to stay motivated. So the first one tonight is very simple, but we often forget to do this. And that is this: remember what it was that got you motivated to get started in the first place. How many times do we get started into something and we're all excited, we're gung-ho, we're ready to make this thing happen, we get a little discouraged or we just get a little distracted, and we forget that same passion that caused us to get started on this journey.
Right.
We just jump in and we're like, I don't know, I'd rather do this or that, or you just, something happens in your life and it throws you off course a little bit, and you say, you know what, forget it, I can't do that right now. Well, there was something about that got you fired up. There was something about that made you want to invest the time, invest the money, and invest yourself into something. Right. So remember that, recall that, think about it, say, write yourself a note, put sticky notes up or whatever about, hey, remember, this is why I wanted to do this. Let's make this happen. Put your goals up there. We've talked about that. I know you girls talk about that a lot, about having goals and setting those and making sure that they're visible, that you can see them. Some people use a vision board, which kind of goes along with the whole Native American thing, have visions, but you have a vision board, have something tangible that you can look at that reminds you. Yeah. Now, as humans, I know I've done this before. I can sometimes do that. And at first it does great, because I'll be I'll just be kind of in limbo mentally, and I'll see it and I'm like, oh yeah, that's what I need to do. But after a while, it just becomes another decoration in the house. Right. So move it around sometimes, take it down, put a new one up, change the verbiage, something like that. Yeah. That's kind of what it is. So that's where studis comes from. Let's do this, studis. So that's what you want to do. So one of the first things is just remember what it was that got you fired up. We have so many times we forget that, and we just kind of, and many times we'll talk to someone and someone else will bring it up, and then you get fired up again. Right. I mean, does that happen to you before? Oh yeah. Yeah. Like someone brings something up and you're like, well, why'd you get with this company, or why are you doing that? And you're like, well, and as you begin to explain it to someone, you remotivate yourself, and you're like, man, I got to get on this, Yes. So that's when it's time to scoden.
Or anytime 4Life is running any promotions or anything.
Oh yeah.
I find that is a huge motivator for people. Yeah. They remember, oh yeah, okay, I remember. I know what the value is in this opportunity.
And how many times has it been one of those scenarios where you're like, I did it once, I know I can do it. Right. And then you get motivated just because you know that you've been there before. Yes. And it makes it in the back of your mind, there's not that doubt that you deal with being it the first time.
Right.
So remembering that passion, remembering what it was the guy started, that's a great thing to keep you motivated.
Well, and I also think that can tie in really well with being a good leader. Because
Absolutely.
if you don't have your own time to where you're like, I know I can do this because I've done it before, then you don't have any faith to go off of in your own ability to lead those people into finding their, I've done this before, I know I can do it, you know?
Right, exactly. So, I mean, it all ties in. Again, it's just got to get out there and just do this.
Right, yeah.
All right. Another thing is to think of how far you've come, but think of that as you're continuing to move forward. Okay. So many times I hear people complain that they're not where they want to be. Okay. They say, well, you know, I've been at this a while and, you know, I've made small goals have been reached, things along the way, but I just feel like right now spinning my wheels, I'm just not getting anywhere. I just don't know that I can keep going.
Right.
But so many times when you take a look back at where you started versus where you are now, that in itself can be motivating, because you're like, wait a second, I've invested a lot of time in things and I started back there and I'm here now. Now I know that's where I want to go, but I'm on my way. Right. So many times it's about knowing that you're on your way. We've used this example before. You're on your way to the bank. Now you may not be there yet, and you know that $1 million is waiting on you, but you know that you've already traveled 5 miles.
Right.
That's 5 miles that you don't have to travel.
Right.
From this point forward. So think of it in those terms. Remember where you came from, because that is something that I find a lot of people forget to look at.
Yeah. And one thing that I found really interesting when I was on social media sometime this week is I saw this post from this girl. She's a social media manager. And she said, if you think about the grand scheme of the effort that you're putting in, think about this. If you do a video once a week, or like a webinar with your team once a week for 3 months, and at the end of 3 months, you're like, this isn't working, I'm giving up.
Right.
She's like, you've only done 12 of them. You've only done 12 meetings in the grand scheme of things. Now, of course, when you do something every single week, it's like repetitive. That's why after a certain amount of time, it becomes more of a habit.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so after a certain amount of time, it feels like, yeah, I have put a lot of effort into this, but how much of that was like reality?
Right.
Did you think, oh, well, I've only done 12 meetings. You know, there are only 52 weeks in the year, if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's about perspective.
Right.
Yeah, totally. Because I've seen people do that. You know, I found myself in prospecting sometimes doing that. I'll get before our CRM was more, I was more well-versed in it. Right. And I used the old school method of a notebook, and I just wrote everyone's number down every time I attempted to call them stuff. Sometimes I go through that notebook twice a day, my whole notebook. And I think, man, I'm just not getting hold of these people. I've spent all this time. And I think, you know, yeah, I tried twice today, but that's one day that I attempted them. Even though I attempted them twice, if I only call them, if I call them every day twice, then still, in as much as it seems like looking at that book that, oh, this book's filling up with notes, it's daily that I'm trying to reach them. It's not like I call them every hour. It's not like I'm calling them and I'm not knocking at the front door. But you have a tendency to look at the overall picture sometimes and not see the little things and realize, you know, I haven't done as much as I thought that I did. Right. And sometimes you think you haven't done much and you've done a lot. Right. You know, so I mean, it's all about perspective. You have to look at these things. You have to be honest with yourself and evaluate yourself, evaluate your business, evaluate your goals through, you know, how would you say it? Through clear glasses. Yeah. You know, so you need to take a step back. And sometimes that's what it takes. You have to take a step back, step out of the situation and just look at the numbers, look at the facts, look at what you've done and all these things. And it makes a big difference.
And if it seems like some of these things we're mentioning is going to be hard to remember, actually, most of the things that you've talked about so far are covered in our daily, weekly, and monthly checklists.
There you go.
If the task doesn't say the exact words that Shayne is saying, the concept and the goal is still accomplished.
Exactly.
So as long as you're
Exactly.
following those checklists, honestly, we've said it once, we'll say it a million more
Million
times.
times.
Those checklists are the foundation of your business. If you're
Mhm.
not doing them, you're not going to get that momentum in your business, and you're
Right.
not going to see those results.
Right. Right. It's consistency.
Yes.
Like anything else in life, it's staying consistent and staying on task, that's why I wanted to talk about this, staying motivated. We're 3 weeks into the new year. But I'll give you a pep talk every week if that's what it takes to get it into your head that this is what we got to do. It's not an easy journey. We've said that from the beginning, but it is something doable.
Worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so you just have to take the time and invest in it. The next thing I had was don't judge your success by other people's success.
Oh yeah.
And this is a big one because so many times we've come across people that say, well, I put this amount of effort in and I know someone else that signed up around the same time as me and look where they're at.
Right.
What am I doing wrong? Why am I, and you can be doing the exact same things that person did to get going, and it just, things don't click. Sometimes that's just the way it goes. Quite honestly, there's no right or wrong. There is no magical answer. Well, they did it this particular way, and that's why it worked for them and not you. No, it can work for one guy and not the other, and they can do everything the same. They can have the same personality. They can have the same amount of knowledge, and it's going to be different. That's just the way it goes. And sometimes it takes just understanding that and just getting over it and keeping going.
Right.
Because sometimes it is what it is. I mean, which is horrible. I mean, it's not always the easiest thing to want to accept, but sometimes it's the way life is. You just have to accept where things are going, and you got to keep plugging away. The fact is that consistency and keeping busy at anything, doing anything. Maybe today it's just emailing somebody that you've tried to contact several times, you can't get a hold of them. Maybe that's your extra for today. But as long as you're doing something and building your business and learning about your business and educating yourself, that's what it takes to keep moving forward.
Right. And I think it's important to remember that you shouldn't be analyzing every move that you make.
Right.
You should be taking that goals timeline that we've talked before, filling that out, allowing that to be kind of your guide for the next year. Okay, so you use that thing as a guide, and every couple months you analyze the progress that you're making.
Right.
You make a plan, you stick to it, you stay consistent. You don't analyze every week. What am I doing? How much is this working for me? It's gonna take time. It's gonna take commitment.
Right.
You can't just throw it up in the air and see, where did it go? Where did it stick? You just have to let the plan work for itself.
Right. Trust the process.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just like in weight loss, or when you're doing, weight training, even a lot of the programs I go on, it's like the scale is a great way to be able to judge yourself as far as you're losing weight or not losing weight, things like that. But every trainer I've ever been under said the same thing. Do not put all your faith in that scale.
Right.
Because there are times that it's going to go up a little bit or maybe drop really quickly, and you're going to get one way or the other. You're going to get extremely motivated or extremely depressed, and then it's always going to come off at a consistent rate. That consistent rate isn't like in 1 week you're going to drop 20 pounds. That consistent rate may be at 1 week you'll drop 2 pounds. Well, if you're watching the scale expecting 20, and all you're watching every single day is that scale, and it's only moving by half pound or quarter pound increments, it can become discouraging.
Right.
But the fact is it's still moving.
Right.
And so they always say, check your weight once every other week, once a month, once a week. And I know people that just obsess over it, and they check every single day, sometimes twice a day, and they can't understand, well, it's just so frustrating. I'm not losing it fast enough. I'm like, it's okay.
Right.
There's going to be days where you're going to drop and you'll be like, yes, I finally hit that magic number, or, the next step that I was looking for. And then you may eat the same things and everything, but you may take in more water, or something has a little more salt or whatever.
Right.
And the next day you're back up a pound or two. It becomes discouraging. So it's a principle that goes in everything, not just in the business, but even when you're doing those types of goals, you have to understand and evaluate yourself on all different points. You can't just focus on one point
Right.
and think that this is the end all.
Right.
You know, you've got to look at everything involved.
Yeah, and I think that carries over really well into what you should be analyzing in your team.
Mhm.
Enrollments are not the sole goal. You
Right,
shouldn't be getting enrollments every month as your goal.
right.
You know, there's so many variables that go into success and finding
Mm-hmm.
success in For Life, and enrollments are one part of that. Yeah,
Right.
just like the number on the scale can be part of that success for
Right,
somebody.
Right. But how do your clothes fit?
Right, exactly.
How are inches coming off?
Yes.
Even when the weight may not be coming off.
Right.
It's a good correlation between those two, because
Yes.
those are both things that people put as resolutions. Build your business,
Yes.
get them better health.
Yes.
So they work well together, but they're also, one's more of an abstract when you look at your business and house building, one's more of a physical thing, but they correlate so well with, you know, looking at everything under a microscope.
Yes.
You know, sometimes it takes just trusting the process and taking a look at your overall,
Right.
and the overall is going to give you a different picture than this little piece.
Yes.
So, but again, the main thing is don't judge yourself by other people's goals, because you're going to see differences in other people. Same thing again with weight loss. You may see someone that they're younger than you, maybe they're genetically, they have a faster metabolism. They'll do the same diet you're doing and drop weight like crazy. And
Right.
you do it and you feel like you just get stuck, and it's like it just barely comes down. Eventually it breaks and you will drop, but sometimes it takes more for your metabolism and things. Just like in your business, sometimes doing what the other person does may not quite hit for you right away, but when it does, the floodgates will open.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind. Now this one's another one. This one sounds more like a tough love thing, but this is something that you have to do. Okay, you've got to do this. You have got to get sick of the same old,
Yes.
because
Mhm.
people do not get sick of it. What they do is they just fall into their old habits because that's comfortable.
Right.
And the whole time they hate that they're not getting anywhere. Why they fall back in the old comfortable, the same old, because that felt easy for them.
Right.
But Einstein said the definition of sanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result.
Right.
So you have to get sick of that. You have to get fed up. You have to get a little bit angry even inside to say, I don't want the same things that I've been doing. The things and decisions I'm making in my life now have got me here, and they're not going to get me anywhere else. So I've just got to get sick of this and say, I'm going to make a change, and you just got to do it.
Yeah.
And so that's one point that I wanted to make sure that was in there, was that you need to just get sick of it. I mean,
Right.
you need to get fed up and just get sick of the same old. Don't accept it anymore, and choose to take the steps you need to take to change it, no matter how tough they are, no matter how hard it feels, no matter what sacrifices. You have to have that goal, keep your eye on the prize, and just push through it.
Yeah.
So that's one that I definitely wanted to put in there.
Yeah.
I don't think
and-
we've ever said it quite like that.
Right. I like it though.
But yeah, I mean, you've just got to get to that point. You're fed up. You're just sick of the same. You don't want to accept the same things you've always accepted.
Right.
You know?
And if you are watching this and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm sick of it. I've decided I am sick of it.
Right.
Now, what do I do?
Right.
Here's what you can
Scoden.
do. Yeah. Scoden. You can plan time. The one thing you can do right now is plan time in your week, an hour
Mhm.
to commit to your business.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
That is the only thing you are going to focus on right now,
Right.
is that hour. What you do within that hour could be several different things, but as long as you have that 1 hour every week, and you can always build on top of it,
Right.
you can
Right.
always shorten it. If after a while you find that what took you an hour and a half to do, you know, at first, the first couple of times now only takes you about 30 minutes,
Right.
cut it down.
Yeah.
You know, as long as you're doing those checklists, as long as you have that goals timeline and you know where you're going for the next 3 months, the next year, then you're covered. You don't have to do anything more over
Right.
that. You can if you want to. You could blast off if you
Right.
like, put some lighter fluid on that fire if you want.
Right.
But, or you could just do an hour. Stick to those checklists,
Right.
get your goals timeline, lay it out, and then just see where it goes for the
Right.
next couple months.
Now, one of the things you girls talk about a lot too, that really goes good with that is make attainable goals.
Yes.
Don't make a goal of, okay, I'm starting my business now. I'm going to commit 10 hours a week to this thing.
Right.
When you don't really have 10 hours or
Right.
you haven't figured out how to manage that to 10
Right.
hours. That goes with what I was saying as well. That is just do something. An
Yes.
hour a week. You spend that much.
Watching an episode on Netflix.
Yeah. Or scrolling through social media.
Mm-hmm.
You could take that hour and instead of being on social media, you could go to your My DiamondsR4Life portal.
Mm-hmm.
You could watch a video. You could set some goals. You could look at your roadmap to success. You could do all of these things that actually work toward the goal that you set for yourself at the first of the year.
Right.
So don't make excuses, get sick of your situation and do it.
Yes.
Do this. You know what I'm saying?
Scoden.
So the next one is, well, wow, this is perfect. The next one is remember that nothing ever changes on its own.
Mm-hmm.
It takes commitment and it takes drive. You have to be the one to make the decision to change it.
Yes.
If you do nothing, that's still a decision.
Yes.
Sorry, but if you decide to do nothing, that's a decision still.
Yes.
And at that point, if you decide to do nothing, then you have no right to complain with how things end up.
Exactly.
And so rather than do that, why don't you remember that nothing's going to change on its own? If you don't like the way things are going, then you have to do something to change it.
Yes.
If you don't like the way your business is going, you don't like the way your marriage is going, you don't like the way things are going at work, you don't like the way things are going with your health, you don't like the fact that all your pants are getting tight, you have to take steps towards making that change.
Yes.
You have to decide to do it and then commit to that decision.
Yeah, because no one's going to do it for you either.
Nope. No one. So,
you can
and
lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink.
there you go. She's getting better with these cliches.
I know, right?
People, come on. She's learning.
I am.
Part of it, I hope, is me. 'Cause I say a lot of them, and later on, she's like, "What did that mean?"
Like these words.
Yeah, like the words she
No.
thought I auto-corrected wrong or something.
I did.
Okay. Now, here's something. This relates to business, relates to life, and for me, it relates to me at the gym a lot. And that is, remember that your biggest challenger, your biggest obstacle is you.
Yes.
The person staring back at you when you look in a mirror, that's your biggest obstacle. That's the person that is trying to keep you from your goals. That's the person that you have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
You need to remember that because you're the only person that you're competing with.
Yes.
Because I guarantee you that these people who are in the business, whether it be this company or another company that are successful, that you are using as like your motivation or that you're using as like, I've got to do better than that guy. They sleep fine at night.
Right.
But what's really challenging is that you want to push yourself to be better. And in order to do that, you have to understand that you're pushing yourself.
Right.
You're not fighting them. You're not fighting to be them or be better than them. You have to fight yourself first and foremost. And when you can overcome that and you can look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm going to make you a better person, or I'm going to beat you at this game, that's when it gets better. But the only person that is any kind of a challenge to you is yourself.
I think that's a really good visual too.
Yeah.
For people to be able to take their, like the part of you that wants to move forward and set those New Year's resolutions.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That is the current part of you.
Right.
Everything else that's fighting against you is the past part of you. The
Right.
part that has all of the habits that have brought you to where you're at.
Mm-hmm.
And both of you are fighting each other right now. Who
Right.
is going to win?
Yep.
Which one is more committed?
Right. Exactly. And to stick with the Native American theme, there's an old Native American proverb that says within every man, there are two wolves. A white wolf, which is your good side, and the black wolf. And he was telling a young native this, and he asked him, well, how do I know which one wins? And he said, the one that you feed. So
I
you
like
feed
that.
the negative side of you, guess what? The negative is going to win out. You feed the positive. You feed the side of you that wants to accomplish and be something. That's the one that's going to win out.
Yeah, starve the other one.
Yeah, starve him. Just
He'll
let
get
him
weak
die.
eventually.
Yeah, he won't survive.
Fade away.
He'll always come back and nip at your heels a little bit, but hey,
Like,
just
"Eh."
keep him down. So,
Yeah.
but that's something that is a really big motivator for me personally. That, and again, I relate a lot of things to things in my everyday life, and then I relate it to this. And so I think of the parts of me that I want to get better at, whether it be in the gym, relationships, whether it be at work, whether it be just a better man. And I always have to think, well, what motivates me? What keeps me going? And part of it is knowing that I've got to be stronger than the side of me that wants to just give up. You have to be stronger than that. So, so your biggest challenger is yourself. And here's another one that's just straight to the point. Either do it or don't. Basically, what it boils down to, you have to decide this is what you're going to do. You have to make that decision. Once you make that decision, you have to do it.
Yeah.
There is no one, like we said, that's going to push you. There's no one out there that's going to do it for you. There's no one that's going to give you a participation trophy in life. You have to get out there and do it. So you have two choices, either do it or don't. Very simple, straight to the point. It's one of the things that I live by as well. It's like, man, do it or don't. There's no in between. You can't halfway do it or halfway not do it. You're doing it or you're not. So
I think that's one thing that we see a lot too, is that people go halfway, which that's more than the people who are not doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you can't judge your halfway off of somebody else's full force.
Right.
And some people that you're comparing yourself to could be going full force at this, and you're like, well, like he said earlier, don't compare what you're doing to what they're doing.
Right.
Their full force could be 300% compared to your 20%.
Right. Right. And you just, exactly. I mean, that's perfect. You just don't want to judge yourself by that. And you just need to decide that I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this to be better. I'm doing this to knock that dude in the mirror out. I'm doing this to go above and beyond. So since I'm doing this, I'm going to put everything into it.
Give your 300%.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you know, there's other things in life you do that for. I know people that, you know, don't want to go to church or don't want to go to a business meeting, but they'll paint themselves multiple colors and go to a football game and scream like idiots for 3 hours, but they won't sit down at something that's going to make their life better in the long run because, oh, it's boring, or, oh, I just don't get excited about that. Well, you're getting excited about, you know, two teams of guys throwing a piece of pigskin around. You know, which football is great. I'm not knocking football, but I'm making a comparison here that same thing that you think is such a great thing, when you break it down to what it really is like, that's sillier to sit there and scream about than something that can better your family, better your situation, better your life, and all these things. So, and
you obviously don't have as much of a connection to whatever it is as you thought that you did.
Right.
Because a lot of people find the value in this and they give their 300% to it. Some people, they don't see the value in it. They don't see as much value as the 300%er does. Oh
yeah, no way. Yeah, they just, you know, like I said, people, again, this goes back to what we always say, is that people, when they hear the word home-based business or something like that, the first thing they focus on is home-based. They don't think about the business aspect of it. And it is a business. It does take effort, but you can do it. There are example after example all day long of people that have done network marketing that have become very well off, millionaires even, that have been able to live their lives and with free of their time, enjoy time with their family, enjoy, you know, watching their kids grow up, because they sacrificed early on and pushed hard early on so they could then get to a situation where it was comfortable in the end. So network marketing offers that. And, you know, what we're talking about on this business thing is just things to keep you motivated, because it's important that you don't lose focus. It's so easy to lose focus. We've seen people that have pushed and pushed and pushed and built, and they get frustrated, they get tired, they decide, I just don't think this is it for me. And right at the time when they decide to quit, someone responds to something of theirs that ends up being a heavy hitter, someone that's like a big time big
Right.
fish, going back to the old tackle box, big fish on the line. And because they went inactive because they decided they weren't ready,
Yes.
someone underneath them in their line ends up, that person goes to them because they responded to an ad or whatever of that person's
Right.
line. And it's just like, dude, you were right there.
Right there. Yep.
Right there. You quit when you needed to just give it one more push. So, you know, you never know when that time's going to come. You never know when it's going to break. You know, there are some people, and I'm not saying that's happens for everybody. I know people too that spend a lot of time and they believe in everything, and it just doesn't happen. That happens
Right.
too. And we hate to see that. It's heartbreaking. We try to get our systems out there and make it as easy as possible, but it's not 100% success rate. You know,
Right.
we never said it. The industry doesn't say it. The statistics don't show it. It just isn't 100%.
Well, and it is pretty hard when you don't have like capital to put up front.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not just that, because we can work with that.
Right.
You know, there are ways to build this business that don't require money.
Right.
But when you have that plus you're not very social, you don't really have a circle of influence, you don't really have family and friends,
Yeah.
you know, that does put you in a little bit more of a complex,
A little bit of a
group.
Disadvantage. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's
Yeah.
going to take a little bit more for you to achieve the success that you're seeing someone else achieve when they have capital to put up front.
Right.
They have a circle of influence with family and friends.
Right.
You know, they
Good
don't
public
have
speakers, or, you know, these sorts of things. Yeah. But that, just because those may be a disadvantage to you personally, doesn't mean that you still can't be successful.
Exactly.
We've seen people be successful that when you meet them in person are very socially awkward.
Mhm.
They're not the conversation starters. They're not the people, honestly, when you meet them, you're like, wow, how did this guy do this or this woman do this? Because they're so, but the fact is they use the systems, they believed in the system, they believed in what this is,
Right.
and they continued going at it. And eventually, like I said, something broke, and there they are. So,
Which, let's leave them with a little bit of a success story, okay?
oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so a perfect example of that, of not letting your, you know, social anxiety hold you back.
Mhm.
A good old fellow we know, Mr. Mike Akins,
Oh yeah.
when he first started out in his networking
Oh,
career,
good Lord.
was it an Amway or something
Amway.
like that?
It was
He went to
Amway.
an Amway meeting and he was hosting it.
He
or
was presenting.
Presenting.
Yeah, he
at
was
the
he was to
meeting.
present at this
Mhm.
Amway meeting. Yeah.
And you know, he was up there, he was trying his best. His 100% was about a 10% on everybody else's
Yeah,
scale,
it was
you know?
it was rough.
He was sweating bullets.
He was sweating.
Hair was
his
sticking to his
shirt
face,
was drenched.
stuttering all over the place.
Yeah. When he was younger, he had a problem when he get nervous of stuttering really bad.
Mhm. Yeah.
So and he knocked
picture
over
that.
his board, his whiteboard, because back then we didn't have the systems, you know, now
Yeah.
we're talking 30 years ago. And he knocked over the whiteboard they had where he was drawing his examples of how the pay plan worked and how it all worked.
How embarrassing.
Yeah.
Like if you weren't already stress sweating, that would send you
Oh,
over the
yeah.
edge.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
knocking over the board when
Right.
you're presenting.
Yeah.
Okay, so at the end of the meeting, this guy comes up to him, and I mean, he's thinking this whole time, I bombed this. I mean,
Yeah.
that's pretty obvious. There's no
Yeah.
sugarcoating this. I
No coming back.
bombed
Yeah.
that. Okay, this farmer guy comes up to him, and he's like, Mr. Akins, I'd like an application.
Yep.
He's like, what?
He asked him why. He's like, why?
Like-
I was horrible.
Well, if you can do it, I know I can do it.
Right. So you never know.
You
So
never know.
always
Mhm.
always just continue moving forward. Just do
Don't
what you can.
give up.
Don't give up. Do the little things. The
Mhm.
1 hour. Do the little things. Stay on it. Just keep going. Scoting, man. Just
Students.
do this. I have one final one to leave you with.
Ooh.
Okay. Enjoy the journey
Oh yeah.
and remember the trials along the way and use them as fuel to take on the next challenge.
Yeah.
Okay. We've heard people sometimes say that, you know, life can leave you scars and can do some horrible things too. But remember those scars, because somewhere down the road, it's going to help.
Right.
Just like Mike's story, he remembered how awkward that was. He
Right.
remembered how bad that was. And from that point forward, it encouraged him, and he would use that to help other people and say, listen, guys, I know you have a hard time public speaking, or I know you have a hard time getting nervous and forgetting things when you get in front of people.
Right.
Trust me.
Been
Just
there,
keep
done
going.
that.
Yeah, just been there, done that. Just keep going, keep going, keep going.
Yeah.
It always works out.
Yeah. Everything that you go through,
Mhm,
you can use to motivate your team,
mhm.
to get your team going, and to
Right.
relate to your team.
Yeah, absolutely. That's all the points I had. There were 8 of them, believe it or not. We got through them pretty quickly, I guess. So
That was great. Good job.
So remember, in conversation, anytime you want to say, let's do this, and you're wanting to kind of just make it a little slang, studis. And when someone says studis, you say skodin, which basically means, all right, let's go then. So a little bit of native slang for you there tonight.
That was the lesson for today.
Yeah, that was the lesson for today. But I wanted to thank everyone for being on and remind you guys that we do these calls. We have 3 calls a week. We also have a big monthly call coming up, right?
We just did it yesterday.
Oh, you just did it. Oh, yeah. Okay. Wow.
It went really well.
Did it?
Mhm.
Okay. Awesome.
It's also on YouTube, FYI.
Yeah. So just remember those things that we do have these meetings going on every single week. We appreciate everyone tuning into them. Always feel free to leave comments. You can also message us through the My Diamonds Are for Life Facebook or through our main website. So again, thanks a lot. Studis, man. Skodin. So once again, it's Frankie Shayne and Katie Lane, and we are out.
Bye, guys.
Later.